Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mio and MMA podcast, talking about UFC 307 Pereira versus Rountree from Salt Lake City, Utah. And we're back at altitude for Utah, so that's obviously a big part of these fights. And also, to be honest here, there's a lot of old versus young fights here. Like, I'm looking down this list, and you have a number of fighters on the, at the very least, downside of their career, including Alex Pereira, including Raquel Pennington, including Juliana Pena. I'm using 35 as that like sort of downhill side. Jose Aldo, of course. And then you have even further down Roman Dolidze. You have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at 41 years old, certainly on the downslide. Marina Rodriguez at 37. 36-year-old Cesar Almeida, who's just kind of getting his MMA career started, but of course a long kickboxing career before that. And then further on down, we still have Carlos Esparza's retirement fight. By the way, retirement fight in Utah, rough. And 41-year-old Ovin St. Preux, 40-year-old Tim Means, and 39-year-old Court McGee gives us a 79-year-old combined age fight to open up the card. So that's a bit of weird choices. Like to go with altitude and go with like kind of older, fading out, nearing the end of their career, one actual retirement fight. People, bit of a weird choice by the UFC. And as a result, I'm not super keen on the card. There's a lot of relevant fights on here, don't get me wrong. Like, we have 2 title fights. Aldo versus Bautista is pretty relevant. Harrison versus Ketlin Vieira, pretty much a number 1 contenders fight, at least for Harrison. Dolidze, Holland, it has ratings implications. And then further on down, you have Wonderboy Joaquin Buckley. I don't know about how relevant that fight is, but at the same time, it's a pretty big deal anytime Wonderboy fights. It's a pretty big deal anytime Joaquin Buckley fights. So obviously, you know, that's pretty decent. Yasmin Lucindo versus Marina Rodriguez, big prove it fight. Further on down, nothing else really comes to mind as like super relevant. Although I do like that Court McGee and Tim Means are fighting each other in what, if not their last fights, has to be near the end of the road for them. I am a sucker for the old man versus old man fights. And maybe it's just because I still remember that Ed Herman versus Zach Cummins fight being so good, so very good. And I'm kind of hoping for that every time we get something like that. That it's going to be like, okay, this is going to be dope. This is going to be a nice high point to 2 fighters' career as they head out the door. And I'm hoping for that. But like at the same time, Utah seems like a bad place for that to happen. As per usual, we have the spiel. I am going to give betting odds. I am going to talk about maybe my own bets. I am going to tell you who, in my opinion, is going to win and why they are going to win. You may use that for betting, but I do have to say, do not bet what you cannot lose. MMA is a harsh mistress for betting. All sports is, and it is not a good idea to look at this as a path to financial freedom or like, you know, make it or break it financial decision making. Don't like, you know, just add that little bit of spice. If you want. If you don't want to bet, that's probably your better bet, honestly. All right, let's talk about the fights. Let's get rolling here. Alex Pereira versus Khalil Rountree Jr. for the UFC light heavyweight title. Let's get this out of the way. Obviously, Rountree getting a title shot is a bit ridiculous. I don't have the UFC rankings up right now, but I'll get them. 205. Yeah, Rountree's rated number 8 in the division behind Yuri Prohaska, Magomed Ankalaev, Jamal Hill, Jan Blachowicz, Alexander Rakic, Volkan Oezdemir, and Nikita Krylov, as well as, of course, the champion. So it is a bit weird that he is getting a title shot. I don't hate it. It's a fun matchup. It's, you know, it's kind of what I want to see from Pereira is him just like kind of banging out against other people, and that Magomed Ankalaev, you know, for political reasons and for entertainment reasons is not an ideal title challenger. But the one thing I've really not liked is that there are a lot of people on social media, including Dana White, going out of their way to like try to make it seem like Ankalaev doesn't deserve a title shot on an achievement level? And the answer is, let's be real here. He does. His UFC run is the best in 205, bar none. I think it's better than Pereira's, frankly. Beating Johnny Walker, the draw with Jan Blachowicz, the win over Anthony Smith, the win over Thiago Santos, the win over Volkan Oezdemir. Like, these are guys that are getting beaten by people who are getting title shots. He's beaten Krylov. He's beaten Kutalaba. He's beaten everybody he's faced except for Paul Craig and Jan Blachowicz, which is, you know, a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal. And, yeah. Like, case in point, he has a win over Marcin Prachnio, who has a win over Khalil Rountree. So there you go. So let's not bullcrap it. On a sporting-based level, Ankalaev should be getting the title shot. Now, we also know this is not run like a sport. This is run essentially like sports entertainment. Not pro wrestling. It's not fake. The outcomes are not predetermined. I'm not suggesting that. But I am suggesting that there is an element of entertainment that goes into any matchmaking. And Rountree versus Pereira, while a less meaningful sports fight, is a more entertaining fight. And probably will do better business. So, got that out of the way. Let's talk about the fight. There's not really a reason not to pick Alex Pereira here. Don't get me wrong, he could lose this fight. Alex Pereira has some defensive lackingness when he goes to pressure. There's a general hitability to him. There's a general relying on his chin a little bit more than is healthy for a guy in kickboxing or in MMA. And of course, there is the big question mark of like, how well can he actually grapple? Now, that one is not necessarily challenged by Rountree. And I do believe Killer Rountree, and I think it's actually the right move when he says he's not going to shoot for a takedown because it's Khalil Rountree. He's not a wrestler. He's not a grappler. Like, I encourage everyone who's kind of like laughing at it, oh, he'll take him down, or oh, he should take him down. Has he ever even scored a takedown in his UFC run? I'm looking for this. He got taken down 4 times by Kutalaba, 2 times by Michael Oleksiejczuk, 2 times by Tyson Pedro, 6 times by Ninja. Yeah, he's never scored a takedown, at least according to UFC stats in the UFC run. And I can't remember anything that disagrees with that. I know UFC stats is a little bit hit and miss and whatever, but realistically, he's not a grappler. He is going to stand with just about anyone. So him standing with Alex Pereira is in keeping. You do not want to be trying to go for like a completely new set of skills at altitude in Utah. You don't want to do that. You have zero interest in doing that. That will gas you. So I'm expecting Rountree to stand and bang with him. And that's the problem is Pereira is just a better striker. Again, he's hittable. He's chinnable. He's never a safe bet that you can't see losing. But yeah, at the end of the day, he just is the better striker. Rountree is fast, powerful, good striker in his own right. Good Muay Thai stylist. People are like, oh, Pereira's not ready for this. A guy who trains in Thailand. Like, that's ridiculous. Guy's been a pro kickboxer for pretty much his entire adult life. Pro combat sports his entire adult life. No, nothing Rountree is going to do is going to shock and stun him and be completely new. But he does have the power. He does have the speed to possibly land some stuff and have some moments. It's just Pereira is the bigger hitter, the better striker on the lead foot and the back foot. And particularly when Rountree has to pressure somebody, when he is brought forward, he gets very messy. He himself gets very hittable. He gets very square to the opponent and can definitely be lit up a little bit. I mean, he is a guy who, let's be honest here. Let's see here. I'm gonna read a couple of box scores, as it were. Got hit 120 times by Dustin Jacoby, significant strikes. Got hit 102 times by Marcin Prachnio, significant strikes. Prachnio, again, is not a high volume guy. And then further on down here, 76 times by Oleksiejczuk. It's not hard. It's not hard to hit him. That is the end result here. So I got Pereira by TKO. Would I be shocked? Would I be appalled if Rountree gets him? No, but he's just a way better version of what Rountree is bringing to the table. And I'd like to make a main event more analytically satisfying, but it's just not really. Like, they're both guys who are probably going to stand in bed because they don't wrestle generally. And again, Utah's a bad place to try new things out. And it's going to be kind of the first one to get hit really, really hard, probably is going to go down. And I just think that that's going to be Rountree because Pereira has the slicker counters. Like I said, he has the more consistent defense than Rountree. He has a good low kicking game as well. You can kick Rountree's legs. Like, that is on the table. It's not like he's some unkickable machine. So, yeah, Pereira, TKO. He's minus 485 to minus 520, plus 350 to plus 375 for Rountree. Sounds about right. You could go a little closer maybe, but like sounds about right. The other title fight is Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena. Juliana Pena is a fascinating fighter in a very frustrating kind of way. She will enter fights with like one specific idea of what she wants to do. Sometimes even just like one specific like technique. Not even like different ideas. She is very aggressive, pathologically so. She is a bully fighter, but without the usual downfall of a bully. The usual downfall of a bully is when the opponent can push back against them, they fall apart. Pena does not do that. But she is defensively incredibly open to getting hit. Like, there is no concept of defense in Juliana Pena's arsenal. And it's why she's been finished by, Jermaine Durandamine by submission. Still very weird. Still bizarre. Armbarred by Valentina Shevchenko. It's kind of weird. Pena is very hard to really figure out because, and I've said this a couple times, and it's been brought up a number of times. She's never beaten anyone that's actually on the roster. Like, she has 2 legitimate wins, Sarah McMahon and Amanda Nunes. That's about it. And Kat Zingano. Okay. Three reasonably solid wins from fighters that have moved on from the UFC. So it's a bit weird. But like in all of them, you could see how she would lose. like you could see Zingano getting takedowns on her and controlling her for like almost 9+ minutes of the fight on 3 for 4 takedowns and just not doing enough with top position. You can see Amanda Nunes destroying her in the rematch with a not even fighting particularly well like idea. You can see Sarah McMahon honestly kind of, up 2 rounds to nothing if we really think about it when they fought. I thought anyways, because she spent so much time on bottom. And, you can say, well, she was busier off her back than McMahon was from the top. McMahon had like 20 significant strikes through 2 rounds. It's pretty bad, honestly. It's a pretty inactive top game, but then falls apart in the 3rd round. And that's kind of the thing, is that if you have the athleticism to match Pena, there's a good chance you'll win because her fighting style is so poorly put together and so very Sujitsu in a nutshell that it's not exactly a safe bet that she beats anybody. But she is a better athlete than Raquel Pennington. Raquel Pennington is, for a UFC champion, a notably bad athlete. She is strong. She is durable. She has cardio. But she's remarkably slow-footed. There's not really any explosiveness to her. There's no real dynamic danger to her. That's the problem. She kind of has to go to war with just about anyone. And it's why I like Raquel Pennington. I really do. Big fan. But I don't suspect she'll actually keep the title for very long. The question is, does she keep the title here? And I've gone back and forth on it. I'm like, they were both on tough, and I probably would have taken Pena back then. But the problem with Juliana Pena continues to just kind of be that, like, if you look at her record, you kind of realize that she's 10-5. you kind of realize that if you go back in time, she lost to like Deanna Bennett and Sarah Moras before getting onto the Ultimate Fighter. And again, losing to Shevchenko and Durandamine. And it's like, where does Pennington fit in that lineage? Like, kind of ignoring that one shocking performance against Nunes and the comeback against Sarah McMahon. Like, is Pennington much better than Nico Montano? Much better than Kat Zingano? Jessica Ai? Ai's problem is more of a size thing. And then, like, Milana Dudieva and, like, Jessica Rokosi. I don't know. It's kind of tough. And I'm going to, like, give a full disclosure here. I always like to say that, like, there are fighters I don't like. And that may shade me against them winning fights. And Pena is 100% in that category. I don't like how... I don't like how she realistically just does not apply the same logic or the same standards to herself as she does to other people. Like, she's complaining about Kayla Harrison having only one win in the UFC. And it's like, she's beaten Holly Holm and got a title shot. You beat Sarah McMahon, who was on her way out the door, and got a title shot. Like, it's not that different. And also, like, for the record, we're going to be talking about Harrison later. When Harrison gets her title shot, and it's going to happen at some point, the UFC did not go out and spend that money on her and not plan to give her a title shot at some point. It'll be after having beaten, like, Ketlin Vieira, who is on the UFC roster, who is, in her prime and, a solidly ranked fighter, and probably a win that means more than anything Pena's done. And then the real mom stuff and so on. So, like, I am not a Pena fan, but there is a chance she can win here. I'm going to go with Pennington. What kind of sends it up for me is honestly the venue. We're in Utah. We're at elevation. Pennington, I do trust to fight hard for 5 rounds. It's not that Pena has bad cardio. It's that I don't necessarily trust Pena at altitude. I can't really have we. I should have thought of this before. Have we ever seen Pena at significant altitude? I'm going to pull up her UFC fights here. There's a fair number of them. My apologies. Okay. I'm not going to bother with the Dudieva one. Dudieva is not very good. Let's see here. Okay, so Dallas, Texas. We've got Las Vegas. No. We've got Abu Dhabi. Man, it's amazing that they got her into the country for Abu Dhabi, honestly. Twice. Abu Dhabi twice. Jeez. Sacramento. Rolling on down here. We've got Denver. Okay, she did fight Denver, Colorado. To be clear, though, that is the fight she lost in the second round to Valentina Shevchenko. So that doesn't exactly inspire much. We got Vegas again. We've got Houston. So yeah, she's got basically one fight in Denver, Colorado, which is at altitude, but that ended in the second round that she lost. So I think that still stands out as a plus for Pennington. That Pena is somebody who does not adapt in a fight, does not have a nuanced, layered game plan. Never does. It's a very one-step game plan, and it works because she is, for the division, a fantastic athlete. And I'm hoping that Pennington has come in with some ideas of different things to do, and that her lack of foot speed and her lack of explosiveness can be overcome. That Pena will start well, get some work early, and then Pennington will slowly take over as the fight goes on because, again, Pennington is defensively void for anything. She's not necessarily difficult to take down for somebody who has pretty potent offensive wrestling. She's very hittable. She has been submitted a couple of times. I'm not going to pick that to happen, but that is even on the table. So I got Pennington by decision. She's the favorite at minus 165 to minus 185. Pena is plus 133 to plus 142. I'm fine with those odds, but honestly, I was expecting Pena to be the favorite. Jose Aldo versus Mario Bautista. This is the first of a couple of like father time fights because prime Aldo you take in this fight, no question. Unquestionably. Champion Aldo against Bautista. I like Mario Bautista. I really do. But that is a win for Aldo. Aldo is, on paper, the better striker. Aldo is pretty hard to take down. I mean, there are some embarrassing takedowns he's given up over the years when he's not expecting them. But like one would think he's going to be expecting them from Bautista. But the problem with Aldo is that it does feel like there's a bit of a 1 foot out the door thing. He went and did the boxing thing. He's back. He was back against Jonathan Martinez. Look fine against Jonathan Martinez, but Jonathan Martinez is, forgive me for saying this, not a very good fighter against somebody who just can't be neutralized. Like Martinez is a guy who you know kind of right off the pot if he's got something for you or he doesn't. And it was very obvious he didn't really have one for Aldo. And I didn't expect him to have one for Jose Aldo. I expected Aldo to be able to do his thing there. But in Utah, this is where Merab was able to just kind of tire him out. I don't think Bautista can really do that. The big question, I guess, for this is that, is Bautista, who's looked pretty good as a pressure striker into wrestling, is he actually good? Or is it a matter of facing off against just like guys who are predominantly grapplers that don't ask a lot of questions? Because like looking back at the fights, there's not a lot of like problem solving to his striking. There's variety, there's building, there's figuring out how things work, but there's never really a lot of like figuring out like tricky technique. It's just not there. And the question is it not there because it's not there because, you know, Mario Bautista doesn't have it? Or is it that he's been fighting Ricky Simon, Damon Blackshear, Guido Canetti, Benito Lopez, Brian Kelleher, Jay Perrin, Miles Johns, Jin Susan? These are all guys, like, outside of the fight with Corey Sandhagen in his debut back in 2019, these are all guys whose striking games are just pretty simple. So is it because he didn't need to show an ability to adapt and to problem solve? Or that he cannot do it? I'm going to take Aldo by decision, but like it won't surprise me that if a combination of Aldo's age, the altitude, and Bautista just being really a guy feeling himself right now and really doing very, very well. And also, you know, big ups to MMA Lab, who I think is one of the best gyms around. Is that something that is just going to come in there? Bautista is minus 138 to minus 150. Aldo is plus 110 to plus 120. We go down to Kayla Harrison versus Ketlin Vieira, and I don't have much to say about this. Kayla Harrison is going to win this fight. It's frustrating because I do think Ketlin Vieira, with the right game plan, could do something similar to Larissa Pacheco. She does have good hands. She does have good straight punches. She is very strong and built like a fire plug. And, you know, has power. Problem is that like everything about her game ends up in the clinch. She will swing and cling, and like you cannot do that with Kayla Harrison. She will take you down. She will get dominant position. She will hit you repetitively. She will work for submission. She will work with the ground and pound in. And yeah, Harrison by TKO is my pick. That being said, I do think that the minus 1,000 to minus 1,430 betting line is way too much. Vieira is plus 600 to plus 850. Roman Dolidze versus Kevin Holland is a fight that I hate. It makes sense. It's between two guys who are in similar real estate as far as rankings are concerned. Don't get me wrong. There is not a problem with the matchmaking. I just hate the matchup because, well, I hate both these fighters. Dolidze is a monster. He's super, super strong, has a good kicking game, very powerful, good clinch wrestler, but like doesn't really have an entry game to actually like get there. Like there's not really any like cage cutting craft. There's a striking game that is very, very inconsistent with him. Like like I said, there are moments when his boxing looks on par. There are moments his kicking looks very, very good. And then there are moments where he just doesn't look like he has any idea what he's doing. The Nasruddin Imavov fight is like a great example of this. And like even some parts of like Marvin Vettori. But he has like that really cool finish over Jack Hermanson and will forever be like, probably main card guy. And also like, again, very, very strong, very, very powerful, overwhelming kind of physicality. And then with Kevin Holland, you have a guy who it's kind of the same thing. Holland, when he's on his game and looking sharp, is a slick, sharp, technical boxer with a good submission game, good scrambling, and all the athletic abilities, and plus a 6'3", 81-inch frame that like should be really good. But he's a bad defensive wrestler, a very bad defensive wrestler who engages in the wrestling a lot. It's like, you're 6'3", my dude. Just stay at range. Just do that. You like in this fight against Dolidze, who's a big dude for the weight class. You are an inch taller and 5 inches longer in reach. Just stay away. Just, work the slick boxing. I just have I just don't trust it. Like there's a game plan that Kevin Holland wins this fight really easily. It's just, I don't trust him to actually, do it. I don't trust him not to do kind of what he did against Darren Stewart back in the day, which is get like, pushed into the fence and like, mugged in the clinch. And as a result, I'm taking Dolidze. I'm cheering for Holland because the version of this fight which he wins is actually pretty fun. The version of this fight that Dolidze wins is, well, it's pretty dull. Unless it has like a really kooky and like cool finish. Holland is the favorite at -145 to -154. Dolidze +120 to +125. At 170, we have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Joaquin Buckley. It's a broken record at this point, but like we have the old man versus the, in his prime guy. Buckley has surprisingly good cardio for a guy that is as bricked up as he is. He's powerful. He's explosive. He's fast. Doesn't mind wrestling, which I think is a big thing here. Likes to mix it up. He's, I want to say he scored a takedown in like almost every win in the UFC, minus like probably that ninja kick against Ipa Kasangana. Yeah, 4 takedowns against Bruce Boa. Okay, he didn't take down Vicente Luque, but Vicente Luque is like dead. Like it took down Alex Morono, took down Andre Fiallo. Didn't take down Albert Duraev. I think he tried a couple of times though. Took down Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Took down Antonio Arroyo. Yeah. Like he's not afraid to mix in the grappling aspects, and that's a bad news for Wonderboy Thompson. He's 41 years old and he's fighting at altitude. Like there's a version of this fight that Wonderboy still wins. He's got a better grasp of range than probably anyone else that he's going to fight in the UFC's welterweight division. He's an amazing kickboxer, amazing karate stylist guy. Still has a lot of the speed and like accuracy that made him a world champion contender in MMA and a world champion in the kickboxing world. He is like 2020 Wonderboy probably take here because like that's when he beat Jeff Neal. And there's not that Buckley and Neal are the same thing. They're not, but like they're both guys who are going to be challenged by like range to a certain degree because they're a little bit short for the weight class, and they don't have the greatest of pressuring footwork. But I just think that at this point, Buckley is too good of an athlete, too willing to grapple as well, that he should probably pick up a decision here. And I think Buckley knows that he needs to win fights, unlike, say, Kevin Holland, who Wonderboy beat and has lost pretty much every other fight in his last. I want to say he's got the win over Neal and he's got the win over Holland, and that's about it. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, in his last 8, he's 3-5 with a pretty dominant loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov, Bilal Muhammad, Gilbert Burns. A fight he was winning admittedly with Anthony Pettis before getting finished, and a fight that I still think he won against Darren Till. But it's been a hot sec. Like, he performed very, very well against Vicente Luque and Jeff Neal, but nothing really nothing really since then. That Holland win still to me is more about him being Holland by him, I mean. Holland being bad and stupid. So I'm going with Buckley by decision. He's a minus 210 to minus 230 favorite. Thompson is plus 170 to plus 185. There is some value on the underdog odds there. There's actually pretty good value on all the underdog odds here because, like, I mean, I probably wouldn't bet on Rountree. He's not a big enough underdog, but like, I'm picking Pena is a very bettable underdog. I'm picking Aldo and Dolidze to win. They're underdogs. Vieira, I'm not picking to win, but like is such a big underdog that you could consider it. And then Thompson here is a live dog as well. Marina Rodriguez versus Yasmin Lucindo. The question here is just like, how good is Yasmin Lucindo? Because like she has the loss to Yasmin Hauergui, and then she beat Brogan Walker, Polyana Viana, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and they're all well below Marina Rodriguez. I mean, Kowalkiewicz maybe wasn't in her prime, but like obviously he's not in her prime anymore. And Rodriguez is a massive, massive step up from that. Lucindo is a pretty solid athlete in general. She likes to pressure. She has good takedowns. They're not elite, but they're solid. And a talented top grappling game. And she does like to fight at a pretty high pace with her boxing. Rodriguez has been vulnerable to such attack before, losing to the likes of Fernanda Jandiroba, Amanda Lemos, and Carla Esparza, with like wrestling as key to victory. But those are all more proven wrestlers than Lucindo is. And if this is a boxing heavy brawl, Rodriguez is very good at that type of fight. Like that's what she wants. She's a scrappy brawler to a T and very, very game in kind of chaotic exchanges. And we'll probably see that. So I trust Rodriguez to be the deeper striker. She is 37 years old, so never know. But like nothing about her performances lately, which have included some losses to be sure, has suggested that she's like in any kind of like heavy decline. Like if you look at it, it's like losing to Verna Jandiroba is like, all right, Verna Jandiroba is like one win away from a title shot. It's not a win she's going to get, I think. Spoiler, I'm picking Tatiana Suarez in that fight, but still. And then like you got Jessica Andrade, who's like a unique freak of nature. Amanda Lemos, she went on to fight for the title. Like, is Lucindo in that category? I don't think so. She's not as gone as like, say, well, she's not gone at all, but like she's not comparable to Michelle Waterson Gomez either. But I am going to go with Rodriguez by decision. I just don't think Lucindo can get the successful wrestling that she wants. And I don't think that she has the striking depth. I think this ends up looking a lot like her fight with Hauergui, actually, where she just kind of got outboxed. And I'm picking Rodriguez to do that again. Lucindo's minus 188 to minus 210. Rodriguez plus 150 to plus 175. Kind of shocked that Rodriguez is the underdog. I don't have much to say about Ihor Pereira versus Cesar Almeida. Almeida is a really, really good kickboxer. He's a good striker. Ihor Pereira does not go for takedowns. Has no takedowns in the UFC at all. He's not super durable. He's been finished by strikes 3 times. He's not really all that good of a striker. Like he's just kind of like a relatively big frame kind of guy at 6'3", 75 inches. And he's fine. He's fine. But fine does not beat Cesar Almeida on the feet. Almeida by TKO is the pick. Almeida minus 375 to minus 420. Pereira plus 290 to plus 310. Again, Almeida he's not Alex Pereira, really, but he is of that same mold, where he's a guy coming in who's got power and like successful kickboxing. Like the worry is what happens if somebody grapples him. And so far they've done a good job about like not really letting us find out whether that's going to be a problem or not, because Dylan Budka tried to take him down and failed. Well, actually got 3 takedowns apparently. And then Roman Kopylov kind of did that, but Roman Kopylov disguised it well with striking as well. So I don't know. I don't see Ihor trying to take him down enough to really make that happen. And Almeida is the minus 375 to minus 420 favorite. Ihor is plus 290 to plus 310. Alexander Hernandez versus Austin Hubbard. I can't believe in 2024 that I like feel comfortable picking Alex Hernandez in a fight. Like he's a guy I've constantly faded because he's an athlete who's just not very good technically to anything. Like, as soon as something stops working, he kind of just falls apart. But I just don't think Hubbard has the depth to really come back from that. And he is an inferior, athlete, as most people are, against Hernandez. If you look at the guys who have beaten Hernandez, we're talking about guys who are very, 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 very good at getting beaten up and then coming back, because that's like kind of their thing. Like, it's the thing that they are uniquely capable of doing. It is their superpower. It is the Damon Jacksons, Bill Algios, Billy Quarantillos, and Renato Moicanos of the world. And Drew Dober, another example of that, actually. And then the only exceptions are like Thiago Moises and like Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone's just, at the time, very, very good. Thiago Moises is a real sleeper of a guy as well. So Hubbard's going to largely stand with him. We should see a pretty okay kickboxing fest, I guess, but Perez or Hernandez being the faster, the more explosive, the more dynamic, etc. guy. It's an athlete pick, really. But I will be cheering for Hubbard because I really like, Hubbard. He's exciting and I respect the dudes who are like not great athletes and have to get through it with a lot of hard work. And I guess the other thing really is that Hubbard doesn't finish people. Really doesn't. So there you go. Anyways, odds. Hernandez is a bettable -159 to -186. Hubbard is +128 to +144. I do see this fight going the distance for the record. Both guys are tough, and Hubbard's not really much of a finisher, but he also does not get finished. He is super tough. Carla Esparza versus Tisha Pennington. I hate to put this all on the retirement, but number one, this fight should be higher up on the card. This is a 2-time champion retiring. So this should have a spotlight that is not likely to be the last fight on the UFC Fight Pass prelims. Let me give a quick refresh here on the card. Yeah, this is the third fight of the night. That's probably gonna just be on Fight Pass. Let's see here, 1, 2, 3. Maybe first fight of the televised portion. I don't know, but either way, a bigger deal should be made. Carla Esparza is a legend in women's MMA. That's all I would say. They fought before. Esparza won. Pennington's definitely a far better fighter now. Has learned a ton. But at the end of the day, it kind of just comes down to where is Esparza's head? She's retiring. She's walking out the door. She's heading away. This is going to be a hard fight at altitude. She's not a finisher. She doesn't have that dynamicism. She's small. Pennington also very small. They're probably both atom weights. And it's a striker versus grappler thing. Esparza is going to try to wrestle her. She's able to do it before. If she's really, really focused on going out with a victor, with a feel good moment, she'll be there. But Pennington is hard to keep down. But Tabitha Ricci was able to do it a little bit, and I'm going to go with Esparza to be able to do the same. But hey, it wouldn't surprise me if she just comes out really, really flat in a retirement fight. We've seen that. We've seen that option. Pennington is -175 to -185. Esparza is +143 to +150. It seems a bit weird to me that in the time that Esparza won the belt for the second time, which was in 2022, I don't think Pennington's had a win. Yeah, Pennington's not won. She's only fought twice, to be clear. Kenzie Dern and Tabitha Ricci. But still, bit weird that she would be the favorite here. I'm a little puzzled by that. Ovid Saint-Preux versus Ryan Spahn. I have nothing to say about that fight. They're two guys who have gotten away with a broken game. Flawed as all heck because they're big, they're athletic, and they're, in OSP's case, at least reasonably tough. Spahn, not so much. I'm going with OSP by decision. It's just Spahn's record against dudes who have any kind of remotely similar athleticism to him is terrible. It's I guess you could say he beat Dominic Reyes, but he got stopped by Bogdan Gushkov, has lost twice to Anthony Smith, lost to Nikita Krylov. He did guillotine Ion Cutelaba, but like also lost to Johnny Walker. Lost to Carl Roberson back in the day. Trevin Giles. Actually has a loss to Robert Drysdale. Is that Drysdale's last fight? That was Drysdale's last fight. Drysdale stopped fighting after the Ryan Spawn fight. Interesting. He'd, of course, been busted with for the roids after his UFC win over Keith Barish. But I don't know. I'm not looking forward to it. They both can be kind of like boring, low output guys, really, really flawed. It's going to bug me. I'm picking OSP. There you go. Spawn's a minus 250 to minus 280 favorite. OSP plus 200 to plus 210. Then we finally get to the old man fight. Tim Means, Court McGee. I wouldn't have this in Utah, but we're doing that. Court McGee is at home at altitude. He does train in Utah, so I do trust his cardio to hold up. His cardio has always held up. He's a guy who's always had to do that. Like he wins on grit and determination and cardio and toughness, durability, I suppose, because he's never been a great athlete, and that's why even at 39 years old, he doesn't honestly look all that different than he did when he was younger. Like he is losing, so like I think it's fair to say that like something's not there anymore, but like, would prime Court McGee have beaten like Matt Brown or Jeremiah Wells? Probably not. Probably wouldn't have beaten Carlos Condit. Definitely wouldn't have beaten Sean Brady. Probably wouldn't have beaten Diego Lima. These are not fights that he's losing because he's necessarily old, but like there's a lack of danger from him that obviously is going to be a bit of a problem. And with Tim Means, to a degree, it's kind of the same thing. Like there's a lot of fights that, prime Tim Means lately probably still would have lost. But like I do think it's a bit different because Tim Means does seem to be getting hurt by stuff that he didn't get hurt before. Like there's a serious question about his durability. Still, I'm going to go with Tim Means. If there are big moments to be had, they're going to be on his side. If there's going to be like close rounds that are defined by like one or two exchanges, that's his kind of game. It's not really McGee's kind of game. And I don't think I remember him like looking tired at any point. Like it seems like despite the high altitude and stuff that like, I find myself trusting Tim Means to still have 15 minutes of hard fighting in him. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to this fight. A pair of absolute like legends to open up the card. Action fighters galore. Let's go for it. Means by decision. Again, we have seen McGee get finished lately, but Matt Brown and Jeremiah Wells are punchers that Tim Means is not. And I don't want to say closer to their prime because, to be honest, I'm not sure that they're younger. I'm not. Hang on. We're gonna look this up here because I'm not entirely certain that they're younger. Here. So Tim the Dirty Bird Means is 40 years old. February 84. October 86 for Wells. And yeah, Brown is the oldest of the bunch, January 81. So not necessarily more in their prime, but they're bigger hitters known for finishing people through kind of big moments, whereas Tim Means never really has been. He's a guy with some finishes, don't get me wrong. Andre Fiallo is his most recent one. Thiago Alves, Ricky Rainey, Sabah Homasi, John Howard, who's very, very tough. George Sullivan, Diego Lima. But like by this time, we're back at like 2015, 2014. So yeah, probably going to go the distance. I'll go with Tim Means. Wouldn't be surprised if Court McGee is just kind of that guy who his game just ages better. Like he still really does feel kind of close to prime Court McGee. Because Court McGee was never very fast, never very dynamic. So the fact that he's, slow and undynamic isn't really a change. All right, that is it for the betting odds. Means is minus 192 to minus 205. McGee plus 158 to plus 165. That'll bring us to the end for the predictions here. I'll be back after the fights. You can check down in the comments or in the description below for my social medias, video gaming stuff, the MMA Simulator Discord, and so on. I'll see you to unpack the fights.